Welcome back to the Belonging Place, where we talk about community, connection, and belonging. And I'm excited for our guest that is here with us today, Tiffany. Welcome. And actually, we're going to just start off with Tiffany, how you found me and how we got connected. And if you remember, this is kind of what I call our meet cute, how we met. So
Okay.
because we weren't didn't know each other in IRL, the kids say, in real life. We do now.
Yeah.
But okay, how did you get to me?
Oh, well, first of all, I do believe that everything is by divine design. And just, I think it was about a year ago, and I was just scrolling through social media and a reel popped up. I think it was just a slice that you had shared of one of your podcasts. And I don't even remember who it was. Maybe I think it was Taylor. And it was just what he said was exactly what I needed to hear. And so I've been following you ever since. And then I just felt,
And you're also friends with Zach Hazlitt, who's been on here, right?
yeah, I'm
Or
not
you follow
friends with
him?
him, but I
Okay.
follow him.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I love everything that he puts out. And then just one day you shared something, and I can't even remember what you were talking about, but I think it was just talking about, um, oh, I do remember you were talking about how you went and bought a house and you were
Oh.
crying, and it didn't they say that you felt like they were just like, oh, she's so excited that she's finally buying a house, but that wasn't truly what you were crying about. And I was just so touched by what you shared, and I'm like, I just need to reach out to her. And then we met and just had a beautiful conversation, and here we are.
And I love this. And the reason why I wanted to share this is we just live in a world where I think a lot of negativity swirls around social media.
Yeah.
And we get really stuck in, even I, as a therapist who really, I don't think I've demonized it so much, but have really helped families and kids put some really strong boundaries around it. I think we don't get enough of the opportunities to talk about how it brings people together, how it can be a connecting place, how good travels across just as much as bad does, and how people capture that, and then how that turns into us sitting on my couch in my office in Salt Lake and just having a really good conversation that led to you being here. So I'm really grateful for you, and really grateful to dig into your story and kind of a well that you have created. For those who are new to the podcast, I talk about belonging places, and I often call them wells, the place in the scriptures where people would gather, where the water was, where romances started, just like a good place for connection. And I'm always looking for people who are creating wells or are a part of wells, which is part of your story. But before we get into all that exciting and awesome stuff, just tell us a little bit about you. And yeah, we'll kick off with that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Sandy, Utah. Uh, I was married when I was 19, married for about 21 years, had 5 amazing kids. And that marriage did end about 3 years ago, well, 2 years ago. And I've since been remarried and was able to take in 4 more kids that I
That's a
love.
lot.
And yeah, 9 kids. And it's amazing. I always wanted a lot of kids, and it's been seriously such a beautiful journey to get where I am today. And my husband's incredible. My kids are incredible. Just, yeah. And I own a bookkeeping and payroll business. I have a nonprofit that is my heart and soul. And that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, you may have seen that I do this, but if I were to ask you that question again, we rewind, and I say, hey, Tiffany, tell me about you, but you can't talk about anything that you've done or have, how would you answer that question differently
Like who I am with all of the
without
things
any of
with,
those things?
okay.
Yeah.
Well, who I am at the core, I always say I am light, I am love, and I am joy.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, it's that I feel like a lot of what I do, right? My purpose just comes from who I am. Um, it's interesting because this is a question that, if you ask someone this question, like, who are you? Who is Kylee without, with all of the things that you're doing, all the incredible things you're doing, like, who are you to the core, and what's your purpose here? And I think sometimes when you ask people that, they don't know.
Mm-mm.
And and I know I have a really good friend named Christine, and she has a beautiful story. She had an injury. She had all these titles. She was a mom. She was a private investigator, did all these incredible things, and then had an injury, and all of that was stripped away. And she had to sit in that and ask herself, like, who am I without all of these things? So they actually have a sea glass shop in Hawaii, her and her husband. And it's such a beautiful place because they have all of these people come from all over the world to come and see their sea glass shop. But that sea glass shop didn't exist until she had this injury. Her husband would take her out to the ocean to find sea glass because she's just this incredible artist. She said one day she was sitting on her couch and looking at this high heel shoe, and she was just so sad that she could never wear it again. And she just started taking wire and wrapping it around this shoe, and they had collected sea glass, and she started, strategically placing the sea glass in it. And then she didn't have enough. She needed just like more pieces. And so he would take her out, and she couldn't walk. He would put her in the ocean, and she would just, crawl around and get the sea glass that she needed. And it's so beautiful because actually the ocean, just that movement, it helped her be able to walk again. And so she always says, I
Wow.
vowed my life to sea glass after that. And so now they have all of these local artists from Hawaii come in and bring their art, and they sell amazing art in there and sea glass. But she talks specifically about the sea glass. And do you know much about sea
A little,
glass?
but tell us. Yeah.
So if you think about it, like just think about a Coke bottle and it breaks, right? And it just seems like such a tragedy because it once was this big, beautiful piece of glass, right? But it breaks and then it goes into the ocean. And you just like would look at that as, oh, it's just a piece of garbage. But then it's in the ocean and it tumbles through the sand for years and years. And then it becomes this beautiful,
It's refined.
it's refined, and it becomes this beautiful piece of sea glass, and it's such a treasure. Like if you ever try to find sea glass, it is hard to find. And when you do, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And we're just like the sea glass, we go through hard things in our life. And what I love, when Christine shares her story, she always says the most important part is the break. And
Mm.
truly, like how many times in our lives do we look at the break as such a tragedy? But that's where the refinement process, that's where the beautiful process begins of becoming.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me a lot of the Japanese kintsugi, which is the
Yes.
taking the broken and filling it with gold, and like that the pieces are important, and that like um I love that. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yeah, but she does say that when she tells her story. She said, like I had all these titles and I wore all these hats, but then in a moment it was all taken away. And I've had moments in my life, and I'm sure you have too, where it's just like, who am I really? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing with the gifts that I have?
Yeah.
What can I share?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why you're here is because of what you like sort of you're becoming, right? So before we get there, do you mind talking to us a little bit about I mean, you gave us a little bit of an overview, but kind of how you got from before your first marriage to here is its own story. Will you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, I mean, I was raised in a home with parents that loved me. Um, but my dad was an alcoholic, and he was a mean alcoholic. And I had a lot of times in my teenage life where I felt alone or like I didn't belong. Um, and I remember I started to go down a pretty dark path because that's what I knew. That's how I
Totally.
was raised.
That's what's
And
modeled in front of you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I had a few profound moments where I had to just really step back and look at my life. Usually when kids are in high school about their junior and senior year, they start, thinking ahead. And I had some moments where it's like, what do I really want? Like, who am I? What do I want to be when I'm older? And truly, all I ever really wanted to be was a mom. And I didn't want to give my kids a life where they didn't feel safe. And so I really just started making different changes in my life. And and I think that one of the things that I did a little too fast was get married. I got married when I was 19. I married a great man who was incredible and I felt safe with and had the same ideals and goals as me. And we had 5 amazing kids together. And um, a lot of times in marriages, sometimes you stop growing together
Mm,
and you start taking different paths until it's kind of the point of no return. And you try to fix things and you try to get things back, and it's just a little too late. And yeah, so I had to make that difficult decision when I could see that we were just not aligning anymore. And I knew that it was the right decision for me. I knew it was the right decision for my kids. Um, the hard thing about divorce is making the decision, and nobody understands until you are there.
totally.
And I mean, there was months where we were separated 3 different times, trying to figure out if we could reconcile and make things right. But it became clear that nothing was changing. But I had 3 different specific times that I went specifically to a sacred place that I go to find out what I was supposed to do, what path I was supposed to take. And I received that answer, like, you need to be done. But I didn't have a reason why, other than I just, knew that we were disconnected. I didn't have, solid evidence of anything.
Hmm.
And um, I didn't really trust myself. I was like, well, is this really me? Or is this really just like Satan just trying to tell me, like, you need to break your family apart? And so, but I had that knowingness before, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But I kept ignoring it. I kept pushing it away.
Sometimes we call this self-betrayal, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
a knowledge that we know, but we're gonna.
Well, yeah, because making the decision that I knew was right was disappointed everyone around me. Everybody had an opinion. Everybody told me I was wrong. Um, and I knew I would lose a lot of people in my life that I loved if I made that
Yeah.
decision. And I did. And and after we had gone to mediation, things fell into place. And I think a lot of times when we make decisions that we just have that knowingness and then we just go with it. Sometimes we don't ever know why, but I was able to find out why I kept getting the answer. And so it was like, you
So the
know
truth
what?
came. It showed up.
Truth came.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm never going to not listen to that inner voice again, or I'm going to do my best to listen, because it's like we all have that in us. We all have
Hmm.
that knowingness. We all have that
Intuition.
intuition, right? But I think when we're making decisions that disappoint people around us that we love, that's where we stop losing trust in ourselves, and we start putting putting everything that we know into other people and their happiness and what makes them comfortable.
Totally.
And yeah.
And I think especially when kids are involved, right? Like
Oh,
there's a
yeah.
lot of marriages I think that people whether you're the woman or whether you're the man that self-betray themselves for the sake of kids, right? There's something to be said about, and when we're being really specific, I'm saying self-betrayal on purpose instead of just like having questions. That's different. When you're sort of like, and in some relationships people are almost gaslit to some degree that like your concerns aren't real concerns. And so I
Hmm.
love that you're representing sort of like this knowledge of like, I had some intuition, I had some knowing without the facts. And then the
Hmm.
facts came and they proved the intuition, and sort of gifting, I think you're saying to women, to people, like be really careful, cautious, loving, kind to your intuition, to your inner knowledge, to what you feel and think. Sometimes you have the facts, sometimes you don't. And sometimes, like you said, you never get them, and sometimes you do, right?
Yeah. And I think that that's the hardest part, is that we're such people pleasers, especially women, right? We want to keep everybody else around us happy. And I think that's why a lot of people stay in uncomfortable situations that they know that they've been told otherwise that they shouldn't be in, is just because they're worried about what will happen after. And I had a friend say to me during my divorce, and I started seeing people fall away. People didn't understand. People didn't know the facts. I mean, there were so many rumors. And my friend said, those that know you. And I saw something really beautiful happen. I started to be surrounded by only people that unconditionally loved me. And the people that loved me with conditions fell away. And that was hard because the people that fell away are people that I really loved. And so that reality was hard to sit with. But I also can have understanding and empathy from where they're coming from. But I feel good knowing that I honored myself.
Totally. It's interesting to me, as a therapist, also as a person, that like when I'm teaching people about boundaries, or in essence, what we're talking about, most people think about boundaries as just like keeping people out, but boundaries keep certain people in, right?
Yeah.
And I think as humans, we have like an over emphasis on um, needing to hold on to the things that we have. I studied Buddhism for a while, and there was a lot of letting go in Buddhism. Like you have to empty the cup in order for it to be filled. And
Mm,
there's just a lot of like letting go of expectations, letting go of what we thought things were in order to like allow new things to come in. And I say this thing. I run a choir, a local choir, and we do auditions every year. And every year we don't have enough men. And every year my partner is like, "Oh my gosh, we don't have enough men." And every year I say, I know it's a religious choir. It's a Christian choir. So I'm like, God is going to bring in people and take out people as they need.
yeah.
And so like we're gonna figure it out. And this thought in my brain in relationships has let me like let go a little bit of this need to like hold on to people, that
Yeah.
like there's times and seasons, right? Like some people come in and some people go out, and if we hold on to people longer than they're supposed to come in, it can be problematic. If we think
Hmm.
a relationship is romantic but it's really friendly, if we think it's friendly but it's actually maybe romantic, like we put things onto relationships that maybe were never meant to be there, we don't get as good of a lesson or good as a relationship is if we have sort of like you talked about water earlier, just like the ebbing in and out of the flow, right? Like
Hmm.
being able to say like, okay, it's not that it's not painful, but
Yeah.
allowing people to make their own decisions and coming to their own conclusions sort of refines those around you. And some people will leave, and that gives room for other people to come in,
Yes.
which I think is your story, right?
Yeah.
Like we just hit the surface. So I want to go back. You made a comment that you grew up in a family both loving and struggles. I think this is we live in an and world, right?
Hmm.
Um was there a turning point for you in your when you were going through this with your dad, and you kind of mentioned like it was hard and you were like a senior? Was there anything in particular, or a person in particular, or something that happened in your life that sort of helped turn things?
Yeah. One is very vulnerable,
Okay.
but that's what we're here for. So, it was two situations, and they happened within a few weeks of each other. And um, I got asked to a dance finally. And I was so excited. And I had worked and saved my money. I went and found this beautiful white dress, and I was so excited to get home and show my mom. And I walked up the three stairs in our garage to go in, and the door was locked, and it was never locked. It was kind of odd. So I knocked on the door, and maybe I knocked loud. I don't know. I had a bunch of stuff in my hands, but my dad opened the door, and you could see he had been drinking, and he was angry because I knocked too loud on the door. And I started to talk and explain why, because I was carrying things,
Mm,
and he hit me.
mm.
He hit me hard. And the next thing I knew, I was down on the cement. My nose was bleeding. And I left. I ran away from home for a week. And I stayed with a friend until her parents were like, "You really need to go home." And my dad was really sorry and said that he wouldn't ever do that to me again. And and he did one other time, and I let him know that he better never do that again. He almost got arrested But right after that was this moment in high school. I was by my locker and I don't, these boys were making fun of me for something. And I just felt so alone, like I didn't have anyone. And I started to walk home and I was just sobbing. And then the seminary building was right there. And back then I didn't go to church or anything. I actually just took seminary to slough it.
Okay. Okay.
And it just happened to be seminary that period. And I walked in and my seminary teacher, I had actually been forced to go there a few times and I was not very nice. I sat in the back and I'm
Tell
sure
us,
I was
tell us
just
what
rude.
seminary is for those who don't know, maybe aren't familiar with that term.
So seminary is just like religious education for, when you're in high school and in junior high, they also have it. And so for those that are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or even if you're not, you can take that class. And it's not a credit. So that's why I took it
Because you're
because it
paired.
was
Yeah. Yeah.
easy
Easy
to
to slough.
slough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was so glad that I did. So normally I wouldn't go or I would be forced to go. But this day, after I had been so rude to this teacher, I went and he could tell that I was sad. And he put a sticker on my hand and it said, Jesus loves
Oh,
you. And he wrote, and so do I. And he's like, come talk to me after class. And I just opened up to him. Like I had never had anyone that cared about how I felt or what I was going through. And he cared, that made such a difference in my life. And he promised me that if I started making better choices, that my whole life would change. He asked me, what do you really want? And I said, I just want to be happy. And so he told me, he's like, like you need to probably make better choices with your friends, focus more on school, and just really good, like loving answers like you would get from a caring father, right?
totally.
And so I did. I went home and that's really where that question came, like, what do I really want? And I want to be a mom. And am I creating the life? Am I doing the things right now to be a good mom for my kids in a home that's loving and a home that's safe? And the idea of everything that I was creating, it didn't work out exactly how I planned. And it was hard on my kids. But what I've seen and what they're seeing is there's so much beauty on the other side
Mm,
of hard. Like I tell them, you guys, like it was hard. The divorce was hard, but like look at how many people you have in your life now that love you that you wouldn't have otherwise. My ex-husband's remarried. He has a wife that is awesome to my kids and that loves them truly. And I have an amazing husband that is so good with my kids. He treats them like his own and he's silly with them and he's fun. And I have his 4 amazing kids. And yeah, so it's like on
it's
the
like
other
beauty
side of
from
all
ashes,
that.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you were talking about like the
Yeah.
cup, like how it's
Yeah.
like if you empty the cup, you've got to fill it with something else. And for so long I emptied that cup and I was like, okay, now what? And now it's like, if I wouldn't have emptied it and if I wouldn't have just sat in that pain and in that hard for so long and learned the things that I needed to learn through that refinement process, I wouldn't have so many amazing people in my life that I have now.
Like coming back to the story, you had to have the break in order to have the beauty, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned, and I know a little because you sat and talked to me about this, but you mentioned in your introduction that you do bookkeeping.
Hmm.
But I happen to know that there's kind of an incredible like story, like
Yeah.
this leads that all these tapestry pieces are being woven together for us to come and talk about your nonprofit. But take me back to the bookkeeping story. How did that start,
Mhm.
and then where did that grow into?
Oh, wow. Well, when my husband and I were first married, my ex-husband and I were first married years ago, he's an entrepreneur and was trying to figure out a path there. And we had 3 kids and were just always struggling financially. I mean, like really struggling,
Totally.
where we were on food stamps and Medicaid, and my kids were in cloth diapers. Like that's how crazy it got. And I knew I had to work, but like once you have 3 kids, if you put them all in daycare, it's like there's your whole paycheck right there. And so I just started all these little businesses, just trying to figure something out. I did like an in-home bakery and like gift baskets and different things, but it's just like nothing was, you know,
Sticking.
yeah, like being as fruitful as I needed it to be for the labor that was involved.
Totally.
And
The
I
opportunity,
knew,
the cost opportunity, right? It's just like,
yeah,
okay, I need this to be a higher end yield
yeah,
financially. Yeah.
seriously. And so I was like, okay, what abilities do I have? Like, what is something I could do from home? And I knew a little bit about bookkeeping from a previous CPA that I worked for, but not much. And I just thought, I'm going to try this and just see what's out there. And I put an ad out and I got my first client. It was like $100 a month, and I was so excited. And then from there, it just grew. And it was such a blessing because I could work when my kids were sleeping and be present as a mom when they weren't. And then um, in 2020, COVID hit, and I remember like looking at my clients like, okay, who's gone? Like, what am I going to do? And luckily, I actually grew because everybody needed the PPP loans, and I was taking on so many clients at the time. And so I started hiring because I couldn't handle the workload. And the women that I hired, it was really incredible because they had a little bit of experience. One of them actually didn't have any experience bookkeeping, but what they did have was motivation. And
Totally.
that's what I had.
Resilience, all kinds of things they learned previous to coming to you, right?
Right, right. Yeah. I knew that from my own experience. It's like if you have motivation, and especially if you're a mom and you've got to be the caregiver for your kids, that is all you need. And these women were both happened to be going through divorces, and really you could tell that they had lost their light. Um, they were really just sad. And so I was excited to be able to provide that opportunity to help them where it's flexible. And what I saw with both of them as they were working, they just started to get their confidence. And it was really incredible. And then I started hiring more people, and all women. And we ended up having this incredible opportunity to go on a women's retreat, and it was more of a corporate retreat. And
Let's pause for one second.
yeah.
Before we get to there, okay, I want to go back to the beginning because one of the things I like to do on the podcast is help people that are listening wherever they are. So,
Mhm.
like back when you were sort of like, I don't know what I can do to contribute to my family, but I have this little olive branch, or I have this little
Mhm.
information. Or maybe some women are out there and they don't really have any skill, but they have a tenacity. They have you called it motivation. I would call it like a work ethic, all kinds of things that you have to have if you're feeding anybody 3 times a day. I think is just hard.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're, taking care of humans, or maybe you don't have kids, but you're also single and you're trying to figure out, like, the first thing that you did was you just took what you knew, even if it was small, and you took a chance on
Mhm.
yourself, right?
Yeah.
Um, can you talk to me a little bit? Like, where did that come from? Like, was that out of desperation? Was that out of just like, I know that if someone gives me a chance, I can make it happen? Was it a little bit fake it till you make it?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely a fake it till you make it
Because
kind
I
of a
want people
person.
to know. Like when I started my nonprofit, I didn't have a nonprofit degree. I don't have an MBA. I
Yeah.
just was like, we have a good idea. We have a niche market. We know people need and want this. Let's just figure out whatever we need to do to make it happen.
Yeah. I always say everything's figure outable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't get good grades in high school. It probably is a miracle that I even graduated. And I actually went to hair school, and I finished hair school. It was kind of a backup plan. I never did anything with it. But yeah, I just think that if you have the motivation, if you have the drive, it doesn't matter if you have the skill, that'll come later. Like,
You can be taught the skill. This is
oh
what I was going to say.
yeah,
You can be taught the skill. Or nowadays, we live in a world pretty much where you can learn the skill on YouTube, or you can
right.
somebody knows a skill that you can find a mentor, right? Like we're no longer in the world where like you have to spend years and years and years learning a skill or a trade.
Yeah.
We do have those people, and shout out to all those people who learn those trades and those skills. But we don't live in a world where you have to have known that, and or else
Hmm.
you're like, oh, I missed the boat, right? You can start wherever you are.
Yeah, you truly can. And I just have always been like, hey, I got to think outside the box of what I've been taught, of what I've been told. And mean, when I started the bookkeeping business and I got this great client, and he actually brought me into a referral group, which was terrifying. I was this young girl, didn't really know what I was doing, just faking it till I make it kind of a thing. I'm in this room with all these businessmen saying that I know how to do bookkeeping, when I knew very little. And then this client, the same client, the very first one I got, he said, "Do you also do payroll?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I had no idea how to do
I
payroll.
will figure it out.
Yes. And so that's where it's like you tap into people that can help you. So I knew a CPA. I reached out to him. I'm like, "I will pay you however much you want to, charge me. And you teach me how to do payroll." I called the IRS. I called the state. I figured it out. And so it's not like I had to go to school for an accounting degree. I
But you
just tapped
added
into the
value.
resources.
Somebody said, "Hey, do you do this?" Because they obviously needed it. You saw
Hmm.
that as an added value. You went and learned what you needed to learn the skill, and then you had that added value. The reason why I wanted to pull back and look at that is I wanted to help people to know it's figure outable.
Yes.
It's not just like boom, I started a business and then boom, I was hiring people and then boom. It was like a lot of scrappy, a
Oh,
lot of like figure it out, do a little fake it till you make it, a little bit of like who do you know and who can you find and who can mentor you. Um, and then with that ability comes sort of like it sounds like to me that like a little bit of a responsibility to lift where you stand.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm here. I got here with some help from other people and figuring it out. I now have an opportunity to, not out of charity, you're going to pay them, right? But like
Right.
give them opportunities in their middle mess of life they're becoming
Yeah.
when they don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
I love this so much about your story. Is like, I'm going to give a space for people to learn skills and to make money while they're trying to figure out other things in their life that really probably matter more than the job they have, but you let them be in a safe enough place in the job that they were learning and growing as well as making money, which I think is so generative.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I went to school and it was just easy, like if I'm just like, okay, this is how I start a business, this is, how I get my clients. Like I didn't know any of that. And I think that if I would have started out that way, I wouldn't have been the type of employer that I've been, where I truly care. I truly want these women to grow and succeed. But really, like where you develop that love and compassion and wanting people to grow is because you didn't always have it so easy yourself. And it's been so just that's probably the most rewarding thing to me. One of those women, I remember her first day, she was so nervous to even type. And then I told her she had to do some collections, and it freaked her out. She's like, "I don't want to call people." And she would
I have
call
to
and
do an out call,
yeah, and was
outward bound.
so just nervous, like just didn't have all that confidence in herself. And now it's like you hear her on the phone, she's like a boss woman, and my clients love her, and she's so amazing. And it's been so fun to
That
see her
growth.
growth.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And so,
Okay, so I you were going on in the story and I stopped to come back because I think this is really important for people to know like kind of how does this come to be, right? And then these are my words, but I feel like in life we have opportunities to say yes, we have opportunities to say no, and sometimes a well-placed yes is a door or a pivot in your life. And I think in your story the yes of this corporate retreat
mhm,
is maybe you would say, I don't know, in listening to your story, I was like, oh, this is a big, important yes.
yeah.
It opens doors and windows and pivots kind of your story. So let's come back to here. Okay. So you and your women in your company get an opportunity to go to a corporate retreat,
Yeah.
which to me is just like, it's not that big of a deal. It's a thing. Just an opportunity. Okay. And then the story starts that you say, yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's funny because it's not something that I was looking for. It was an opportunity that just kind of fell in my lap. And truly these women couldn't afford it. So it had to be business paid for them to be able to make it on this trip. And I mean, they just had done so much for me. And so I'm like, okay, I can make this work. I worked out a deal with the host of the retreat and made it work. And we got them out to Hawaii, where we had this
I love it.
amazing retreat. And it wasn't really what was done at the retreat. Like we had so much fun. We were taught different things. But what was so beautiful about it is it gave them space to just dig deep, to dig for the answers that were within inside themselves. Like, what do I need to do with my life? What do I need to change? Who am I becoming? Where am I going? And I just saw like their light come back during this time. And I mean, it's like girls' camp. Like you go home and you're just like on this high and you're just like, oh my gosh, like I love everyone, And I remember being on the plane thinking that, like having that feeling and being like, oh, this is so great. But I know it's just, we're all going to just kind of go back to the way things were. But that's not what happened.
Okay, I want to pause again.
Okay.
I think we have these moments in our lives where we experience something good. Everybody's story is different.
Yeah.
I've had lots of people sit here. And this tipping point that I just am passionate about, that I want more and more people to tell their story, where you can receive and that could be the end.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I don't necessarily have a problem with people being their cup being filled by somebody else, right? Like, and then there's this other side where people get to receive, and then from that they decide they're going to do something. And my words, they are a part of a receiving of in the well. And then they say, I feel like I need to go build my own well. Like I'm sitting here and I'm receiving and it's great. And I can stay here and I can continue to receive, or I can go do something generative. I can go give from my well. Now, sometimes it's that same thing and sometimes it's totally something different. You get inspired to go paint your own corner of the world. But this is, I get so excited. I'm excited. So you come back. Okay. So you're on the plane and you're feeling really good about this experience that you have. And then what do you do with that? You just come home and you're like, it's great.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, it was an incredible experience that I mean, I will never forget. And what I did with it, because I was like, I'm good, like I'm in a good place. I don't really need a retreat, but these women could really use it. But really like it changed me for the better. I came home. One of the things that we were taught is just basically figuring out what your priorities are. Like, what are you saying yes to that's making you say no to the most important thing? And at the time, my most important thing, and still is to this day, are my kids and time with my kids. And I felt like I was so sucked into my business that I wasn't giving my family the time and attention that they deserved. But I felt like at the time I didn't have a choice. I felt like every time, I mean, it was like a lose situation. If I was saying yes to my kids, I was saying no to my clients. If I say no to my clients, or if I was saying yes to my kids, wait, you know what I'm saying?
It's like a zero sum game. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I felt like I was always disappointing someone.
Yeah.
And that
time with your kids was time away from your business. Time with your business is time away from your kids. It's just like I think I talk a lot about, it's not finding balance in your life. It's sort of a dance. Anyone who says you have to find balance is just like, hasn't done it, hasn't actually had to have the weight of it, because we don't live in a world where you can be a full-time mom and a full-time worker. We live in a world that if you have to pay the bills, you might have to work more hours than you can spend with your kids. But it's like, how do we find that balance?
Yeah. And I just couldn't, and I didn't feel like I had a choice. Just because that was my mindset. I didn't feel like there was any way around it. But what happened when I got home for me personally is I started writing things down, and what I realized, it's like, why am I saying yes? Every new client that comes on, why do I keep saying yes to them? I have sufficient for my needs. I don't need more. When I take on a new client, it's hours of work. It's time away from my family. And so I started making all these goals. Like, okay, I'm not going to say yes to anyone else. I'm going to get rid of some of these harder clients that are taking up some of my time. And so what truly the retreat allowed me to do was give me that space to open my mind.
Reevaluate.
Yeah, reevaluate things. I think sometimes, all of us are in this like wake, eat, sleep, repeat routine every day.
Whatever's right in front of us.
Yeah, because we're all treading water. We're just all in survival mode, and we don't give ourselves that time to say, what could I do different? What do I really want? And what can I do to get there?
In the Covey squares, there's like urgent and important, and the second square is things that are important but aren't urgent. And
Yes.
I like always am convincing and trying to tell people and teach this principle that like we have to spend so much more time in quadrant 2, things that aren't urgent but that are important. This is like
Mhm.
the strategic planning of life or in businesses. This is capturing what you're doing in case something happens to you. People aren't writing their sort of director plan or their business plan. This is journal writing, writing about
Yeah.
your life so that later you can read about it. But if you're just living it, no one, these are like these things that are sort of hard for people to do. It's hard for them
Oh,
to
yeah.
make time for them. If you don't carve out that time, they're not going to happen. And they sort of need long periods of time to
Mhm.
happen. This quadrant two. It sounds like the retreat gave you a little bit of stop, carve out some time to do this.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, like, you don't need to go on a retreat to just, like, you
To
know.
say, hey, let me
Yeah.
evaluate my life. Let's take a pause. Anytime I take a pause, I know I might be losing money and I might be taking time away from my family. But like they say in business, you have to spend money to get money.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to spend time to get time,
Yes,
right?
exactly, I
Like I'm
love
going to
that.
stop and I'm going to reevaluate and I'm going to look at where my energy is, my opportunity cost, and like what's going on. And I'm a big fan of this. I think that like people don't do enough of this, like setting themselves up for success because they're so afraid to stop whatever they're doing. And yes, I always say, yeah, you're going to have some losses in that stop, whatever they are, right? Because you're
Right.
investing in you. And because you're
Mhm.
not investing in you and you're doing all of this, there's also a cost.
Mhm.
So take some time, stop the, thing. Toyota calls this Kaizen. Everybody, it's continuous movement and improvement that anybody on the line of building cars can stop the whole process
Yeah.
and fix the problem rather than like, we're just going to keep going, keep going, keep going. And then these little problems cause big problems in the car, then eventually cause problems for the people that are in the car, which is the client, right? In our
Oh, I love that.
lives, there's a cost if you don't ever stop the line and fix the problem, right? Like
Yeah.
everything down the line is going to fall apart way worse
Oh,
than if
yeah.
we stop now, right?
Yeah, but so many of us don't stop. We don't take that time to just say, "What is this all for? Like, what am I doing? Where am I going?" And I love the idea of writing things down. Like, that opens up doorways in our
It's a
mind
good
that are
processing
yes,
process.
yes. And
Okay, so
so
you wrote some goals down, and it seems like the process of writing them down made like a change in you. It's like
oh,
I
yeah.
have these goals and now I need to go do something about it, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I did. In fact, it was funny because I went to work the next day and I told all the ladies, I'm like, "Okay, I'm not taking on any more clients," and they were all excited. And then, the universe had to test me, and one of my neighbors actually came in and sat down in front of me and said, "Okay, I'm ready to do my bookkeeping now." Which, like 3 months prior, I told him I could do it, and he'd never got me, his information, and so now he was ready. And I was good because I knew everything that's said in my office, everybody in my whole office can hear. It's a small office. And I knew they were all listening.
Is she
So,
going to hold the boundary or not?
yeah, yeah. And so he said, I let him know we're not taking on any more clients. Like, I can refer you to someone else. Well, first he said, "Well, who's going to do my bookkeeping?" And I mean, he looked like he was going to cry. So I felt all this pressure, and I didn't say, I should refer you to someone else. I wish that I had someone at the time because then it would be easier for me to say no.
Right.
Instead, I didn't have like a backup plan. I didn't have a way like, "No, but let me help you this other way." Instead, I just said no. And then he made me feel bad. And then I said, "Well, okay, what do you have to do? How much work is it?" And it didn't sound like a lot. So I said yes. And the women, he walked away, and the women in my office were just like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Okay, I promise I won't take anyone on after him." But what I realized is every time I said yes to a new client, I was saying no to my family. And as soon as I made that realization, as soon as I realized that my main goal, the thing I wanted most in life, that I was saying yes to all these things that didn't even matter, I was taking away from them, and that changed everything. And so that's the thing. If you're gonna, as women, we're yes girls, a lot of us are, and we just feel like we have to people please and tell everyone yes and keep everyone happy. But we're not happy. Like, how many things do you say yes to that really you're like, oh, I really want to
Not
say
only
no,
that, but
but
like I know I just referred to the Covey squares. This is Stephen Covey, but that third quadrant is important or is like urgent but not important. And usually what this is people or things that show up in front of you that
hmm
seem to be urgent because they show up in front of you, but they actually aren't. They're not your agenda. They're not your what I call fire. So this person, who I'm sure is a lovely person, came and you held a boundary and then they gave you what I call their fire. He
yeah.
gave you his fire.
hmm
When people give us our fire, we have choices. And a lot of time people don't think about it. Like, I don't have to hold your fire.
Right.
I can give it back to you.
Oh
And
yeah.
I can be
And
like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And I believe that you're capable enough that like, if I can't help you, then you'll find somebody else. Or like you said, like maybe when I'm saying no, I'm saying here are some options for you and I have
yes.
those ready, right? But the thing about people giving us our fire is that they are crossing our boundary.
Yes. I was going to say I didn't have
Yes.
boundaries when this all happened. And I've learned a lot about that in the
Yeah, it
last few
sounds like you
years.
very much set the
hmm
boundary. And then what you did is you put a principle behind the boundary. Because
hmm
boundaries, just for boundary's sake, make people upset.
Oh yeah.
And they also don't work very well. Like these are power boundaries that we give kids. Like if we always take away their keys or we always take away their phone and there's not a principle based consequence, they don't work very well.
Right.
If there's principle, so the principle you put behind your boundary was every time I say yes to somebody in business, I'm saying no to my family. It makes it a lot easier to
Oh yeah.
say no because you're saying yes to going home and spending more time with your kids, right? Or
Yeah.
investing in your kids, which made that boundary so much more easier and easier no. It also sounds like you
hmm
probably found somebody that you could refer people to.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was key because then I didn't feel so bad about letting people down. And it was funny because I had to have like I had my little win tally. I had a little sticky note that I put on my monitor and I just had a tally every time I said no because it just felt like so empowering to me like look
Exactly.
how
That
good
was a
I'm doing.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And but really like for anyone that has that hard time saying no when you really know your
It's at
no,
the
right?
cost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's at the cost of something. If you feel in the moment that you want to say no, but you just can't, give yourself space. Like say, let me think on that. Can I give you an answer tomorrow? And then really like sit with it for a minute. Like, does this align with my goals? Does this align with what I feel inside of me that I should be doing? And if it's even a little bit of a no, it needs to be a no. And then you need to put the boundary up. Not everyone's going to be happy about your boundaries, just like you said.
Totally.
You are going to have people that don't like that. They
And
just
especially if they don't have what I've noticed about boundaries in general is the healthier somebody gets, full body, mental, spiritual, the more they get good with their boundaries.
yeah.
And the more that people that aren't healthy are good with their boundaries, it's like almost like they're allergic to other people's boundaries. And this is
Oh.
going to happen. It always gets worse before it gets good with boundaries. And this is why I think a lot of people struggle with boundaries because they don't
Mhm.
want to do that worst part. They don't want to do the like and they don't want to feel like they're cutting people out. They don't want to feel like they're losing money. They don't
Yeah.
want to feel there's like this scarcity mentality even if you have enough, right? They're like, well, every person that I bring on will give me more money. But does money this is that reevaluation. Money to do what? Because if it's
Right.
money to go on a vacation that you're really, then maybe temporarily you say a few more yeses. But if it's just money for money and then you're losing, and each person's different, right? Like
Right.
you get to do your own evaluation. But yeah, I would say always when you set boundaries in relationships with food, with money, with jobs, with partnerships, like anytime you send a set a boundary, and especially if it's a good boundary, a healthy
Yeah.
boundary, it makes sense. It's a principle based boundary. It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
It's always going to be hard for other people because it wasn't that way and now it is that way. And
Yeah.
people don't do change very well. Yeah.
No, no, but how great is it when you do honor yourself and
No more self
truly
betrayal, which is what we talked about
yeah.
before. It's like, okay, I'm going to honor.
Yeah, and I mean I wasn't taught boundaries as a kid. I think a lot of kids in their homes and they're in hard situations aren't taught boundaries. And then, you have to fast forward into your adulthood and learn them.
Learn while you're
Like,
doing it, right?
oh
It's like
yeah, and you create a
building
lot
the
of
plane while you're
like
flying it. Yeah.
yeah, hard messed up situations in your life that it's like if you just understood that to begin with, it would make all the difference. And so, yeah.
Okay. So you're in the midst of this and
Mhm.
you decide to go build a well.
Yeah.
In my words, Tiffany, tell me a little bit about what led to that? And then I just want to give you the floor to talk about your well. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, that retreat was life changing for me. It was life changing for the women that came. And we talked about this a little bit before, but I'm such an empath, and I just, I want to help people. I want to pull them out of their sadness. I've had to learn how to do that in a healthy way. But, but at the time, when I saw the change that happened in these women that came on the retreat, I started thinking about so many women in my life that I loved, that were struggling, that I knew this retreat would be just life changing for them. And it's not just a retreat. Again, it's just giving them space away from everything
Like
that's familiar.
connection with other women. And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that so many women are just, they don't have that connection to other women. And we need that. We truly need that. So yeah, so I started thinking about all these women that needed to go. But then I thought about, like, okay, what would their no be? Like, what would be the hold up, setback? And every single one of them is a financial reason. Like, they would never want to spend that kind of money on themselves. Their husbands wouldn't let them spend that on themselves, or they just didn't have the money. Everything was a financial piece. And so then that's where the idea came. What if you did retreats in Hawaii and it was set up as a nonprofit? So then you can get donations, you can get scholarships for women to help so that they can get there. And that's where Her Infinite Worth was born. And so I built it with the women that work for me. And I mean, it has seriously just been so life changing, not only for me, but for so many other women. But that's been a whole journey in and of itself, because here I am just trying to live my life, just trying to be a mom, providing for my kids. And then, you throw in a divorce, and then you're starting this nonprofit. It was just so many things at the same
lots of
time.
change.
And I was like, I feel pretty confident, but when you go through hard things, you really lose who you are. And I just felt like, how can I go and help these women find their worth if I don't even see my own? And so it's been just this beautiful journey, for myself included, to really know who I am to the core without all the hats. The hats, like, I just put my worth in so many external things, when truly, like, my worth has always been here. It's
Infinite.
always been here. It's infinite.
Always. I love that you, um, this is another like Covey principle. I'm heavy on Covey today, but
It's okay.
he has these 7 principles for highly effective people and
Hmm.
teens, right? One of them is begin with the end in mind. So I love
Hmm.
that you, when you're starting this idea of like of Her Infinite Worth, that you're like already trying to problem solve the challenges that are gonna keep people from it. Like it's baked in and built in. I love this.
Yeah.
I just want to say to people, like, this is the way to do something new, because I'm a big fan of building wells, but I'm also a big fan of like not building a well if it's already built somewhere.
Yeah.
Like solve a unique problem, right?
Yeah.
Or
Truly.
join with somebody who's already doing something, or like begin with the end in mind, right? Don't
Mm.
just start to start.
Yeah.
Start something that matters, start something that has a reason for it, start something that like you can contribute in only the way that you can contribute into
Hmm.
it. And then bring all your tenacity and all your knowledge and all your ability to like figure it out, and then begin with that end in mind with the challenges. And then even when you've done all that, it is anybody who's been an entrepreneur, anybody who's started a nonprofit, anybody who's really started anything, there's so much failure.
Oh, yeah.
Failing forward is what I call it. There's so much, we hope, right? There's so much failure mixed up with identity, mixed
Hmm.
up with empathy, this desire to help others. But in order to help others, you have to sort of make the behind the scenes disappear. And so you have to work extra hard to make sure that people can't see all that you're doing behind the scenes so they can experience it. Anyway,
Yeah.
I have some grasp of that, but you have this vision of Her Infinite Worth, and you have an idea about how, and when you sat down originally, because I know it's become its own thing, but when you
Hmm.
originally sat down and thought about it, what was your begin with the end in mind? What did you hope would happen as a result of something like that?
I don't know. I just see it spreading like wildfire. I just see women that have lost their light finding that spark again and then paying it forward. It's like that ripple effect, you know? And I mean, truly, her infinite worth in the beginning was just a pay it forward kind of an idea, but it's become so much more than that. And it's become just everything I do, like eat, drink, sleep, it's all I think about, like, how can we make this touch more women's lives? And it's just funny because I'm like, this is not something I ever saw myself doing, but
As
but
is the
it's
story of most
oh yeah.
people who start something, right? It's like, I never really thought I would do this, but do you feel called a little bit to it?
Oh, I know that I'm supposed to do it for so many reasons, spiritual reasons, just coincidences that weren't coincidences. And I know that I'm supposed to be doing it. Sometimes I'm like, why? Like, I'm sure there's someone more qualified, but I don't know. I joke with my friends. I'm like, God knew that I would be the best person to take charge of this because He knows that I'm not a quitter. And truly, what drives me is when people doubt me, when people don't believe in me. That gives me motivation. And it is interesting, you know, social media. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. I would say more, but just looking from the outside in, it's like, oh, Tiffany's going to Hawaii again. Oh, you know, they're just funding their own private trips. And it's so much more than what people see. I mean, when you go as a director, it is so much like you're pouring your soul into these women, you're holding space for them. And you come home so depleted and but it's such a beautiful thing. Like it's such a beautiful thing to see what happens on these retreats and to see women that came sad and their light comes back. It's so fun to look at the picture when they first like get to Hawaii to the last day of the retreat and their light is truly back. And it's not anything that we're doing. I mean, it is so beautifully designed, but really it's these women. They come and they're ready to see themselves again. They're ready to come and do the work. And it's seriously the most beautiful thing.
Like when, as you're talking about this, because my nonprofit takes families and we go to like international tours and we do service tours.
Mhm.
And I had the same thing. People would be like, oh, you're going on a trip again. You're going to this fun place. And I was like, man, I wish I was going on a vacation.
I
But
know.
I'm going on this pre-tour and we're going to spend a ton of the time, like days of the time, trying to find a hotel that will take 45 people and then transportation
Mhm.
that will take us from this place to place. And how do you feed people who are moving all day, every day, 3 times a day? And it's like a lot of work, right? This
Ugh.
is the behind the scenes when you're putting something together. It's a lot of like, and a nonprofit, it's a lot of like, how can you give me the most with the least amount of money? It's like beg, steal, and borrow to get
Oh
the things
yeah.
that you need in order to make it like an enjoyable experience. And then there's the other side of the coin, which is the people that are going to come and experience the magic that you're putting together.
Yeah.
And you need both sides, right? Like you
Truly.
need to be able to, someone needs to do the behind the scenes and set things up for safety and for enjoyment in order for other people to come and experience the experience. And this is for me why I just believe in this. Like sometimes you come to the well and sometimes you build the well, and where you are in your life, sometimes you do both, right? Like you received and then you created, and there's times and seasons in that as well. But
Mhm.
maybe break it down just a little bit for us, because I have a little bit of an insider knowledge. But like when the women come to her infinite worth, like it's sort of broken into these three ideas. Maybe tell us a little bit about it. I don't want you to give all the secret sauce because I want people to
Oh
come,
yeah.
but tell us a little bit what the focus is for these women at her infinite worth retreat.
Well, the name Her Infinite Worth, it was very str- not strategic, but very divinely designed to be named that. It felt fitting because it's like, what are we trying to hope that these women get out of this retreat? And it's really truly like being able to listen to themselves again, to find themselves again. And so we have divided it out into different teaching segments. And the teaching segments are called Love Her. And we
Mm.
focus on loving our bodies. Like it is so crazy how the world, how social media has warped our minds, especially as women. Men have the same issue too, but we think that we need to look a certain way. And so it's trying to change the women's mindset that our bodies are an instrument and not an ornament. There's that book called More Than a Body. It's such a great book, but just taking it back to like focus on what your body can do for you and not what your body looks like,
Totally.
and then right after we teach that, we take the women out to do an underwater photo shoot. And it is so much fun and it's so freeing. And the women just like let their guard down. They're not so worried about what they look like in their swimsuit. They start to understand like, okay, it's not, who cares? We all have cellulite. It's fine.
This body
You
did
know?
amazing things for me.
Yes, yes. I had a woman that is a good friend of mine that went on the retreat, and she talked about how impactful that lesson was for her. She's like, I've always focused on all these things that my body can't do for me. And going to the gym was even hard. But she's like, okay, I'm going to focus what I can do at the gym. And she said she just started walking on the treadmill and she would go a certain time and then she'd push herself harder. And she's like, okay, I can walk. I can do this. And so I love that idea of just flipping that switch on your mindset and feeling comfortable in your own skin. And we talk about also like talking about how we live our lives for everybody else around us. I mean, truly, I think we actually start with that lesson because it's so eye-opening, even for me. It's like you sit there and you think, oh my gosh, like what are all these things that I'm doing only to keep everybody else happy around me when it doesn't really align with who I truly am. And so that really opens their hearts and minds, and it actually brings a lot of things to the surface.
Totally. Yeah.
And then the most beautiful, impactful day is when we talk about forgive her, and it's forgiving ourselves. It's forgiving others, because so much of the time that's what holds us back from moving forward in our life, because we're holding on to so much pain, whether it was self-inflicted or other people caused that pain in our life. And it just, that probably is the most impactful for women, because that's what they're holding on to. And so it's just beautiful to see them be able to release that, and we let them go float in the ocean. The ocean just has so many healing qualities anyway, but just like let the ocean take that. And then the last day of teaching, we talk about trusting her again. This is actually the one that I teach, and I love it because a lot of reasons why we can't trust ourselves is because we are our own worst enemy. We get in our own way with the way we talk to ourselves. I mean, I started paying attention to, what do I say to myself when I'm looking in the mirror? You talk about being vulnerable, and we're sitting here looking eye to eye, looking into each other's souls. So think about when you're standing in front of the mirror and what you're saying to yourself in the morning. Like, what does that look like? Are you beating yourself up about something maybe silly that you said the day before that you're embarrassed about? Or are you critiquing your body or the way you look? And so you start your day with that. Like, what does the rest of your day look like? And how do you feel about yourself? And so a lot of what I teach is, don't do that. Like, feel like you have to be intentional. At this last retreat, we had a woman that said, for every negative thing you say about yourself, you need to say 5 positive things. And so just think about that, like how we're just on this like cycle in our brains, and we're just letting our brains kind of run wild and just do its thing all day long.
And also, we know, we've done evidence of this. They've done neurological studies of this, that the negative stays and sticks longer than the positive. So
yes,
on that, we can train our brain. We sort of, if we don't train the opposite, if we're not being grateful or saying positive things, like the negative is the thing that sticks, right?
Yeah.
And we're always comparing. I love the quote, comparison is the thief of joy, because we're always comparing to somebody who we think has something better. We never compare to like what we have that maybe someone else doesn't have.
Right.
I had this experience when I was really young. I think I was like 10 or 11 or 12, somewhere in that age. And I was in the public bathroom, and I was like, there was a girl who was putting Vaseline on her eyelids. And what had happened, come to find out, is her eyelashes had fallen out. She had alopecia. This is the first time I'd ever heard of this. And I was like, I was just curious, it wasn't me, but I was just like, what's going on? And she's like, oh, I have to put Vaseline on my eyelids because I don't have eyelashes to catch any of the stuff that your eyelashes are for your eyes. First of all, I had never thought of my eyelashes ever at that age.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah. Or my elbows or my knees or my ankles.
Right. Or
parts of my
else.
Body that I never, ever, we think about our stomachs, and we think about our teeth, and we think about these, I think, things that are like are sort of visual that other people comment on, our eyes. But I remember leaving that bathroom. I was in tears.
Mm.
And I remember never before had I ever prayed and been more grateful for my eyelashes. I was just
Wow.
like, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for my eyelashes. I think of a lot of women who pay a lot of money to get eyelashes and do a lot of stuff. And it's just like some people don't even have eyelashes at all. I think we could do a lot better by just being grateful. So sometimes I pray about my ankles and my knees and my elbows and my eyelashes and things that like
Yeah.
help my body work, and like, or my hips as I get older that are
Yeah.
still working and still moving. Things that we don't pray about or think about or really give much credit to that have really helped sustain me and move me. And so I love this. I love that you guys really take an opportunity not just about the body, but about forgiveness, but about how we speak to ourselves, how we trust ourselves. It's a sort of a full mental, physical
Yeah.
wellness opportunity to really take an inventory of all the pieces of your life. It sounds like.
Yeah, yeah, and truly, I mean, at the end of it, it's helping them see their worth. It's helping them see their light again. We had this amazing woman that came last week on the retreat, and she was sitting on the beach and she was flipping through her pictures and she started to cry and she said, I'm like looking at my smile before and it was not even a full smile. It was just a little bit of a half smile. And she's like, I'm looking at my pictures now and my smile is fully there. My light is there. And I think when we lose who we are, um, and we lose our worth and we forget, you know, how amazing we are and the things that we can do and the lives we can touch and impact, you can physically see that light gone. You can feel it. It's almost like a tangible thing, and I have done that. Like it's been fun to watch women on their journey and you look at pictures of them before the retreat, and then they give themselves that space to really dive into their soul. They come home, they make the changes. And it's so fun just to see,
I
like,
love
oh,
that.
there it is. There's your light,
Yeah.
And I've had times where, during my divorce that I look at pictures and it's like, I look like an empty soul. My bags under my eyes, my smile doesn't look genuine. And I have this picture of me on our wedding day a month ago. I've only been married for a month, but um, we got married in Hawaii, and it was such a special occasion for all of our kids to be there. Really, truly, that's what it was we wanted to bond our families together,
Totally.
and nothing was really planned. We just, got married in the backyard it was actually at the retreat location. And we all ended up in the ocean
I love
in my wedding
this.
dress and everything. And the photographer captured this picture of me walking out. And I look at it and I just cry because it's like you can see, I mean, I'm a bride and I'm completely drenched. But the smile that's
Joy.
on my face was like, there is that light. There is that pure joy. And I mean, but really why I had that back was because I went through the gooey, icky, hard,
The becoming.
the becoming, right? And I gave myself space to just sit in it. Like so much of the time, we don't want to sit and feel that pain because it feels uncomfortable.
We
But it's
numb
like,
it, we distract
yes.
it, yeah.
But it's like sit in that pain and really examine yourself. Like, what do I need to change about me? I mean, for me, it was like, okay, I'm an empath and I don't know how to use that in a healthy way. I don't know how to have boundaries because I was never taught boundaries. What can I do different?
I'm
And
giving more than I'm filling my cup, right? I gotta
yeah,
figure out how to fill my cup so I can give.
yeah. And so it's just like be intentional about what you need to do in your life and not just, figure it out. Don't just write it down. Don't just put it in a journal and throw it away and never to look at it again. Like do something about it. It's like you've got to take that next step of really being intentional about making changes in your life.
I love that.
Yeah.
Tiffany, looking back, kind of you just shared your kind of journey. I think it's unique to you, but I also think there's a lot of women who are sort of like, or maybe even men that are, I wouldn't say maybe even, of course, there's men
Hmm.
that are sort of at the beginning of their becoming or in
Yeah.
the middle of their mess. What advice or what wisdom and knowledge have you sort of, I know you're not through all of yours, you're like still in yours, right?
Hmm.
But is there anything in particular that you would say either to your younger self or to those who are sort of back where you were and not quite having arrived or not really arrived but haven't gotten where you are right now? Is there anything you would offer?
Oh, so much. I mean, I remember, I remember when I decided that I needed to move forward with my divorce. And I had, I would hear different things that people would say. And a lot of people are like, oh, she's going through a midlife crisis. And I had to sit with that for a minute because that kind of hurt. And I'm like, it's not a midlife crisis. It's
Midlife
actually,
questions, that's what I call it.
yeah,
Anyway.
it was a midlife awakening for me where it's like, I just was on just this, I don't know, I was living inside of this box of everybody living the life that everybody else wanted me to, even though inside of that box was painful. And and so I would say that if you're in the thick of it, like just don't numb out, don't lose who you are. I see so many people, including myself. I lost who I was. I gave up on a lot of things when I was in the thick of it. And I wish I could go back, but actually, I don't wish I could go back. I'm grateful for all of the experiences
Yeah.
because through even the hard stuff, I learned so much about myself. I feel like every hard situation was like a mirror that I was like able to look at myself and examine myself. And so it's kind of like we always talk about the idea of a butterfly, right? Like you're in that goose stage. You're in a
Yeah.
cocoon. You're like it's uncomfortable, like it's dark, you can't see, you don't know what's happening to you. You don't feel the same as you used to physically, mentally, emotionally, anything. But then when you break out of that cocoon and you become that butterfly, it was so worth the hard and the dark and the pain and not knowing what lies ahead of you. But it's not just sitting in it, but it's also do something about it. Like
Yeah.
what can you do? And who can you become? And who can you
What
help
do I have
because of
control over? Yeah.
yes, because so much of the stuff you don't have control over, but truly at the end of the day, you always have control
Mm.
of yourself. Sometimes that's all you have control of.
Well, and I want to say the more you work on yourself and invest in yourself, the more you gift that to everybody around you. Cause like
Oh,
a lot of
truly.
people that I sit with, they're like hyperly concerned about their kids. And I get that. But I'm saying the gift you give your kids when you invest in you or you realign your values or you set healthy boundaries, even though it might be painful and hard, is they get to see you do that and they get to see you model that so that when it's their turn, it's not this so foreign anymore. Like when you said, I wasn't really taught how to do boundaries. Well, you've given and will continue to give your kids modeling of setting boundaries over and over and over and over and a self-investment and a model that even says like we take time and we invest in ourselves so that we can give
Yeah.
your daughters, your sons won't have to be like you and you're like, I never learned how to do that. They have a mom who's been doing it right in front of them, messy or not, right? You've
Yeah.
been gifting that to them. So yes, it is about yourself. But the like most ironic thing in life for empaths, for people who are introverted or extroverted, is that as you fill your cup or as you invest in you, it spills out through your eyelashes and your toenails and your
Yeah.
fingernails and your life
It's
whatever
light.
you do, right? So if it's
Mm-hmm.
negative, it spills out. If it's positive, it spills out. If it's
Yeah.
self talk that's negative, it spills out and gives everybody around you permission to agree or to say that language. If it's good, it spills out. This is why those affirmations, giving kids affirmations, like the things that they grow up with and they see, they do. Or they have to change like we do generationally, right? They have to say enough of that. But if we can set them up better by showing it and modeling it, what a gift we give them, right?
Oh, truly.
Changing generational impact.
Truly. And I mean, I feel like there were so many things that were just like divinely set up for me to kind of wake up to my situation. And I was talking to a woman, we were paddleboarding, and I was talking to a woman, and I just asked her, like, what? And this is when I was still married. This is before anything happened. And I asked her, what happened? Like, do you mind me asking why your marriage fell apart? Because I had known her for years. And she opened up and shared why. And I just started crying. And she's like, why are you crying? And I said, because you just described what's happening in my marriage. And I had never shared that before with anyone.
What a
And
tender mercy. Yeah.
oh, yeah. And I was just faking on the outside that everything was perfect because that's what you do in this culture. Like, you just have this perfect family, And there was a girl that was actually sitting on the top of my paddleboard, just listening to the conversation that we were having. And I told the gal that I was talking to about her divorce, I said, well, I will never leave my marriage because that would destroy my kids. Like, I would rather suffer to keep my kids safe. And the girl that was sitting on the paddleboard turned around and said, your kids see it, Tiffany. And that was so eye opening because all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, they do. I thought about conversations that I had with my kids where it's like they really do see it. And even going to therapy and trying to decide, like, do I stay? Do I go? What do I do? My therapist said, if your daughter was in your situation, what would you do? And
Powerful.
what would you tell her to do? And that really was eye opening because I would tell her to leave. And, you know, I look back and I know it was so hard on my kids. And I mean, divorce is hard. There's just no way around that. But I hope that through that hard, that my kids have learned so much from me and even my ex-husband about, resilience, about, rising from the ashes, coming up from something that's hard and
New
becoming something better.
beginnings.
Yeah. And I mean, and I look at my ex-husband's life, we have our distance, but on the outside, it seems like he's grown. It seems like he's happy. And my kids say that he's happy. And so that's like really good and really healthy for them. So,
I think we come back to the sea last. It's th- like I think sometimes we think the break is always bad, and many
mhm,
times the break is a new opportunity. It's new beginnings. It's an opportunity to reevaluate, to look at it. Um, Not everybody who gets divorced gets to have a new family. Not everybody decides that they need to get divorced, right? But I think
right.
the principles that we're talking about is like we have this one life to live,
Yeah,
and we only have control of ourselves.
truly.
And we have gifts and we have power and we have callings and we have things that only we can do. And if we allow ourselves to have these, as you in your journey described it, like people come in and people come out and opportunities are given and then opportunities are taken. And then, I think if we're trying, we're striving, we're doing our strivings to do the best. And then I think if we have opportunities to give back, like there's so much, joy with the pain, right? There's
Yeah.
so much good with the bad. There's so much growth with all the other things. I'm wondering if there's any particular story or anything that you would want to share as we kind of wrap up Her Infinite Worth. Is there a journey that you want to share with us of somebody who's gone through that, or anything else you want to share about Her Infinite Worth?
About
Just
oh,
yeah.
their own personal journey
Yeah.
with it.
Well, I don't know if, and you don't have to give like personal details, but, or maybe I don't, I'm just opening up. Is there anything else you want to share about like Her Infinite Worth before I ask you my last couple questions?
Yeah, I think the becoming of Her Infinite Worth is a beautiful story. Um, you know, I don't think that Her Infinite Worth would exist today if certain things didn't happen. I would have just been done with it because I was so wrapped up in my divorce and um, my business and everything else that it just would have been like, okay, that was a fun thing that we
This
did.
side project is
Yeah,
done.
and now it's over.
Yeah.
So it would have been the third retreat that we did as a nonprofit. And I had a woman come named Jamie. And if you rewind back to 2016, I was at my niece's baptism and I knew Jamie very casually. She was my sister-in-law's best friend and we had met a few times and she was just this light, just this person that like when you meet her, you feel like she truly just loves you and understands you and wants to know about you. And she had three little boys at the time and she hugged me goodbye and I was the last person she hugged. And she walked out with her husband and she had her little boy in her arms and then her two oldest little boys were in front of her and her husband walking and they opened the sliding van door with a remote and that triggered them to
Run
run.
to the car.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and her little boy was hit by a car and he died. And I remember being outside like holding on to hope that it would be okay. And I couldn't stand being out there anymore. And so I came inside and I saw the helicopter come. And so I went and looked out the window and I said, okay, good, the helicopter's here. And I saw Jamie walking with a paramedic. He's guiding her, and she just had her hands over her eyes. And as a mom, I just felt that pain. And he didn't make it. He passed away, little Tanner. And you just like want to help so much, but it's a situation you can't change. You can't do anything about. And I went to the viewing, and I went up to Jamie and I said, you know, I know that so many people are doing things for you right now. They're bringing you meals. They're just, you know, at your beck and call. And I want to do something for you, but it's going to be when everyone's forgot and just moved on with their life, or they're not there as much for you. And I never did anything, and that ate at me for years. And then when we started Her Infinite Worth, she was the first person I thought of that I wanted to bring on that retreat. And so I called her in May and I said, this is the weirdest call you will ever get, but I want you to come to Hawaii with me. The costs are all covered. All you need to do is just come. And these are the dates. And she said, you know, Tiffany, like that's like my home. I went to BYU Hawaii, and this is such an incredible gift. But she's like, I'm just not in a good place right now. And I said, okay, that's okay. I'm going to keep calling you. And when you're in a good place, I want you to come. So I called her for the next retreat, and she came.
Love that.
And during that retreat, like I remember watching, we always do a pre-retreat Zoom meeting so the women can all meet each other and we can give them basic instruction. And I remember looking at her in the video, and she just looked so broken and sad. And it was halfway through the retreat, and we were driving to Waimea Valley. And she stands up. She's sitting in the passenger seat, and I'm driving. And she stands up with this, you know, big van full of, you know, probably 13 to 15 women. And she said, okay, you guys, we're going to do a car dance. And she like taught them how to do this car dance. And it was so fun. And I looked at her and I thought, her light is back. Like, this is the Jamie that I knew. And it was so fun because it didn't go away. She was like a leader that whole retreat. And she pulled me aside during that retreat, and she said, if you ever need help with this, I would love to be a part of it. And that January, that opportunity opened up for her. And I called her, and she truly has been such a leader and made the organization what it is. And what I love about that story, you think about her story of losing a child and my story of, you know, an alcoholic father and divorce and everything else. Like, it's all about, we are all going to go through hard things in life. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And we can sit in it and we can feel it and we can be sad about it. Like, that is allowed. Like, that's how we grow. That's how we change. But then I love taking it that extra step of, what can I do with what I've learned, and how can I help people in their lives, which is what I love about the well idea. That's truly what people creating wells are.
Totally. And our cracks are what let the light in. Leonard Cohen in his song says, this is how we see each other. I'm convinced that pain is attracted to pain and grief is attracted to grief, and that the wells of depth of pain or whatever, that this makes us a more whole person and more relatable. The women that you bring in, they've got their own cracks. They've got their own wells of grief. It's hard for people to relate to people that seemingly come across like they've got it all together. This is unrelatable, right?
Yeah.
Nor do I think very many people have it all together, whatever that means. But I think
No one
it's
does.
really relatable to people when they can meet you in their pain points, right? And especially in a healthy way to meet you. This is my favorite thing about Jamie. Jamie, we love you. Shout out to Jamie. Is that she also took an opportunity to partake from the well, and then she wanted to give you took and then you wanted to give. It's a generative, it's an invitation, it's sort of a responsibility.
Yeah.
It's a very different space than being a victim of your circumstances and sort of being stuck and caught at all cost, right? Like, because you all could be,
Oh,
right? You all
totally.
have enough reason to sit in your stuff. And like you said, there's a time and season for that, but also like what am I going to do? How am I going to help myself and how am I going to help others is sort of like a really cool place, or like not expecting other people or the church or whoever to like fix your problems, but like internally being able to say like, what can I give and what can I do? And it looks so different for different people.
Yeah.
You're doing Her Infinite Worth. I have this choir over here. I have friends that are doing lots of other things, but it's this idea that you grow where you're planted, right? And where you have been gifted opportunities out of your failing forward to really, and where your story meets her story. It seems like it was almost like kismet. She had already
hmm
loved Hawaii. You were doing retreats in Hawaii. She has this experience that brings her back her light and she says, I can do. And you have an opportunity that comes up, a hole that is created for her. And next thing you know, you guys are racing together arm in arm, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what I love, love, love about the idea of the well. It's as I was thinking about that. I mean, why do you go to a well? Because
Yeah.
you're out of water, because
Yeah.
you're empty and you need to fill your bucket, right?
Totally.
And so I think of Her Infinite Worth. We've got women that are coming to Hawaii because they're empty and they need to fill their bucket. And then they fill that. And it's like, you don't want to just keep that to yourself. There's plenty of water for everyone, right?
Totally.
And so the beautiful thing, and this is truly happening with Her Infinite Worth, is women get home and they find women that they know they have no water and they say, hey, I know a great place that you can go to fill your bucket.
I love
It's
it.
like, yeah, it's just to pay it forward. Like it's like life is, it's a beautiful mess. That's truly
Mm.
what it is. And I'm so grateful for my heart because I want to help other people get out of their hearts and in a healthy way. Like I used to be the empath that wanted to just fix it. Like, oh, I don't want you to feel that pain. But it's
Mm.
like pain and failure, like those are our greatest teachers,
Mm.
right? And I
Don't
was
ever pull someone out of their opportunity to grow, right?
right. And I was doing that. I was trying to save everyone around me. Like, oh, I know what pain feels like. I don't want you to feel that. So let me help you with that. But now I've learned how to use that gift of empathy in a healthy way where it's, I will sit with you. I will
Yeah.
sit with you in that
I
pain.
will gift you the reflection that you have everything you need,
Yeah.
and I'll hold your hand.
And I will hold your hand and I will help you see your worth and I'll help you see that light. And then once you find that, I want you to go do the same thing.
Totally.
Find other people that you can share your light with and you can help them see their worth again. And, I talked a lot about my divorce and it wasn't all my ex-husbands. I had ownership in that too. And you asked me before, like, when people are sitting in their pain, like, what advice would you give them? And I think just taking ownership,
Mm.
like what ownership do you have in your pain? Like what got you here? And what would you change? What would you do different? And that is where the most beautiful growth happens.
Mm.
And it's painful. It was
Mm.
hard to like really look and to go to counseling and do a ton of spiritual work and try to figure out like I was on a mission. Like what is wrong with me?
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
why can't I hold boundaries? Like why am I so nice when I shouldn't be?
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, oh my gosh, like I've got all of these spiritual gifts to give and share, but I need to do it in a healthy way.
I love that. I think that sometimes we think these traits and we have a certain attribute, like things we attribute to them, and so we excuse our behavior because of it.
Oh yeah.
And I think when we learn to really utilize our gifts that we're given in the way that they're meant to be given, they also are very permission giving, right? So
Yes.
just that one switch of like sitting with somebody who's hurt, and instead of trying to pull them out of their pain, sitting next to them reflects to them that they can do it.
Yes.
Otherwise, we say you're incapable, right? We don't
Right.
mean to, but we're telling them like, because I feel like I can fix you, it means you can't. And this is the last thing somebody needs to do when they're like down in the pit. Like Brene Brown says, like, you want a sandwich? The best thing we can do is climb in and say, sometimes they can borrow our light. Sometimes they can borrow our remembrance of their lived experience. Like, you haven't always been here. I've been your friend for years, and this is how you used to be, and you've done it. So I know you can do it again. Sometimes they can borrow from us. Many times, though, and I believe truly that people have it within them to get through that. It's like the chicken that's breaking through the egg. You
Oh,
can't
yeah.
disrupt that process. It's their growth process, right?
Oh, yeah.
But we don't want to do it alone.
Right.
And so wherever you can create opportunities of connection, right? This is my whole thing. Um, or where we can give people opportunities to fill their buckets, like this is what
Yeah.
we need to do. And this is where we need to spend our time, both on ourselves and others.
Yeah. I think that like a lot of times we think that, oh, we've got to give our friends the answers. We've got to help them. We got to fix them. We got to save them. But truly, the answers are really within ourselves. I had a friend of mine tell me the best story that just really changed my perspective. And he he said it was because I wanted to help someone, and I felt like I was really crossing boundaries trying to help them, but I felt like it was my responsibility, right? So what he said was he used to be a physical therapist, and when he first started, he would go into the patients' rooms and he would scoop them out of their beds and he would place them in their wheelchair and take them off where they needed to go. Well, one day I guess it was maybe his administrator that caught him doing this, and he yelled at him and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like caught off guard. He's like, "I'm helping them." And he's like, "You're not helping them, you're hurting them." He's like, "The whole reason why they're here is so that they can learn how to use their
Get
muscle
off the bed.
again." Like, so it's that idea of, like how many people in your life are you just like, whether it's a kid, a husband, a wife, I don't know,
Friend,
a
yeah.
friend, a mom, a dad. I don't know. Who in your life are you just picking up and throwing them in the wheelchair? Like they will always want to be in the wheelchair because that's easy, right? But if you help them, it's going to be a little bit of a painful process for them, but they'll get the most out of it. They'll learn how to use their muscle on their own, and they won't depend on you all the time.
Yeah. Tell us where, if people are listening, they can find more information about Her Infinite Worth.
You can go to our website, of course. It's herinfiniteworth.org. And there's just great information on there. There's videos. If you click on upcoming retreats and scroll down, there's just more information and insight on the activities. And truly, the place that I love to send women, because I'm a visual person, if you want to see what a retreat looks like, go to our Instagram and click on any of the bubbles, and it shows
The
the
highlights,
retreats,
yeah.
yeah, as they happen.
And we'll put the information in the liner notes for this. Okay, we have come to the last question, which which you've kind of answered throughout the podcast, but I always ask my guests, like, when you think of the word belonging,
Mm.
what does that mean to you?
Oh, belonging. I think that if you would have asked me this 3 years ago, I would have given you a different answer.
Yeah.
I think belonging is being able to be around people and in a space where you can truly be yourself. Sometimes we think belonging is, again, like living up to how everyone else thinks your life should be,
Assimilating.
whether it's your parents or your religion or your culture, or, I mean, social media is a big one, right? We think we need to live our lives a certain way so we can fit in, so we are included. But truly belonging is like when you step outside of that box of living up to everybody else's expectations and truly living for yourself and what aligns for you. And that's uncomfortable. You will lose people along the way, but you will find your people where you truly belong, and you can be yourself and you can be who you truly are. And I feel like even that you align better with God's will.
I love that. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Tiffany.
thank
I have
you.
loved learning from you and about your story. And I wish you guys, I know you just got back from a retreat, and I wish you guys the best, both in your story with your new marriage and
Thank
your
you.
blended family, and also in the well that you're building.
Thank you so much.